how actually Islam become predominant religion in many regions of the world. For instance, Africa or Southeastern Asia or Central Asia, in the Middle East, Eastern and Southern Europe. How Islam become a predominant religion in those areas is actually because of that trade connections, such as, for instance, Maldives is an interesting example for that. They also converted into Islam. So because if you become Muslim, you would become part of a huge empire, a huge domain. You would have access into that market. It's just like how the Romans were so effective around the Mediterranean region, and how many other nations around the Mediterranean basin wanted to become Romans and wanted to join that ecumenical power, wanted to become citizens of that universal power, that Roman Empire. So as the Turks, for instance, most of them also converted into Islam, so they would have access into that huge domain of Islam. Because after the death of Muhammad, we are going to see that in a short amount of a time, the Islamic realm is going to grow exponentially from Spain to China. We are talking about a huge landmass here. Let's say you are a trader in Indonesia or in Maldives. It would be much more advantageous for you to become a Muslim and join into that huge trade hub. It might sound all the people converted into Islam because they want to join in that trade hub. No, obviously, I can't know intention of every human being throughout the history, but this economic connection was extremely effective. Actually, don't forget that also. Ibn Battuta actually, he was born in Morocco, and he was a traveler around that Islamic domain. For instance, he visited Timbuktu, the kingdom of Mansa Musa, or he visited those cities around the Swahili region, or he visited Maldives, for instance, and he even became a judge in Maldives. A guy from Morocco become judge in Maldives. Why? How could he be a judge in Maldives? Can I be a judge in Maldives today? First of all, they were all had the same legal structure. I can't be a judge in Maldives today because they have a different legal structure than my original country, Turkey, for instance. I don't know the legal structure of the Maldives, so I can't be judge over there. But at that time, the legal structure was similar. And beside of that, we are going to see actually the emergence of states around those regions, because they are also turning into civilized nations, from kinship societies to civilized nations. And if you build a state, a government, you would need some certain bureaucrats for working under your rule to turn the wheels of the government. You would need some people who are educated, but you don't have the necessary education institutions yet in those regions. You would need some educated people. So that's why, for instance, how Ibn Battuta became a judge in Maldives, because he was qualified, first of all, and also they were following the same legal structure. And beside that, there were no other qualified candidates around Maldives at that time. Does anyone know who is Bilal Habeshi? He was a slave. But for the Muslims, since he became a Muslim, they seen him as a brother, as an equal. I mean, this is the revolutionary idea of it. Because before Islam, we are going to see that around the Arabic Peninsula, the tribal asabiya was effective and important. If you just remember, I was talking about the theory of asabiya from Ibn Khaldun, how the kinship societies were acting together. Okay, it is collective feeling and collective action. So those tribes have strong asabiya, strong emotional connection with each other. So they were acting together, they were acting for each other. So it was very important force for those kinship societies. And Muhammad is trying to create a revolution, that he is going to destroy the tribal asabiyas, that small tribal tendencies among the people from the same tribes, but he is going to try to build a universal asabiya, that people would have an emotional connection with each other, and people would act for each other, and people would stand for each other if they are all are under the banner of Islam. But we are going to see in couple centuries, they are going to divide. There will be a schism among the Muslims. It's all because of a civil war among the Muslims. Because after the death of Muhammad, Muslims invented a new institution, which is Khalifa. Caliph means successor, but it is not the successor of the Prophet, because Prophet was the last prophet for the Muslims. There will be no other prophet, there will be no other new religion. The Caliphs become leaders for many Muslims. They claim that the age of 4 Caliphs and the age of Prophet Muhammad, those early stages of Islam, was a golden age. But the thing is, 3 of those 4 Caliphs has been assassinated. 4 Caliphs were elected by the people, and they were all supported by the people. So Abu Bakr, Umar, Osman, Ali, those 4 Caliphs were accepted by the people. Only the first Caliph, Abu Bakr, died peacefully because of his old age. And after his death, people decided Umar should be the next Caliph. And after Umar has been killed, Ottoman has been elected as the new ruler. Ottoman was from Umayyad family. As you might remember, the Quraysh tribe was actually divided into 2 sections, Umayyads and Hashemites. And they were competing even before Islam. When Osman has been killed, Ali elected as the next Caliph, as the next ruler. But we have a problem. Now, the governor of Damascus, Muawiyah, who is also from Umayyad family, so Osman was his kinsman, his relative in that sense, claims that the new Caliph, the new ruler, could not find the perpetrators, he couldn't find justice, so he is not a just ruler, he claims, and he rises against Caliph Ali. Now we have a civil war between the governor of Damascus, Syria, and between the Caliph Ali. And by the way, also, Ali is from the Hashemite family. So an Umayyad Caliph, Osman, assassinated and died. Then an Hashemite, Ali, becomes the next Caliph. So a governor in Damascus, who is also from the Umayyad family, rise against the Hashemite Caliph in that sense. So we have a civil war among the people. When the forces of Ali about to beat the forces of Muawiyah, because he had lesser troops than the Ali, his soldiers put pages of Quran on their lances and show against the forces of Ali to claim that let Quran become a judge among both sides, so that Muslims should not fight with each other. Some of the troops on the Ali side didn't want to fight against fellow Muslims who are also holding Quran pages against them. So with that, now the forces are standing by, are not fighting with one another, but now they are trying to find a peaceful solution with arbitration. Now we have the first sect, Kharijis, which means literally the ones who left. So Kharijis are claiming that Ali is Caliph. So Muawiyah is not his equal. That means Ali should not have an arbitration with Muawiyah because he is superior as the ruler. So he should be the judge. He should not have a judge among both parties. They are not equal. So they are claiming that with that, Ali is no longer a rightful leader. So they left the battleground on that sense, the Kharijis. They are the first sect. And we are going to see that actually one Khariji is going to assassinate Ali as well later. And when Ali died, that civil war is not finished yet. It's going to continue. And do you know who becomes the next Caliph after Ali's assassination? The son of Ali, Hassan, becomes the Caliph. But actually the people were divided. Some of them was accepting Muawiyah as the Caliph. Some of them was accepting Hassan as the Caliph. So the civil war was actually on continuing. Because of that, Khalif Hassan left the office and accepted Muawiyah as the ruler to end the bloodshed, to end the civil war. So all the Muslims were on the same side and the civil war was ended because Hassan has left the office in the name of Muawiyah. So he would become the Caliph and the civil war should be ended. After that, Hassan dies, but some of the Muslims still were standing against Muawiyah and his rule. But the problem is, after Muawiyah, we're going to see that he turns the leadership into a dynasty. Yazid was not an elected ruler, but Yazid becomes the next Caliph, and many Muslims stand against him. Husein was going to be a threat for Muawiyah's rule, Muawiyah's regime. And because of that, Hussein was also killed. Hassan and Hussein, both grandsons of the Prophet Muhammad and sons of Ali, has been killed. And the Muawiyah become only ruler. And afterwards, his son Yazid becomes the ruler. And many Muslims stand against that. With the Umayyad dynasty, we are going to see that capital is going to be the Damascus in Syria. But most of the Sahabi, the ones who personally met with Prophet Muhammad, most of them were living in the prior capital, Medina, and they rise against the Caliph. So they were standing against Yazid. Yazid, he sent his troops to the city of Medina, which is rising against the Caliph. He massacred most of the population in the city of Medina, the first capital for the Muslims. His forces continued their way into the most holy city, Mecca, and they also besieged the city of Mecca, and they throw even fireballs with the catapults into the city of Mecca, and they even destroyed the walls of Kaaba, the burned, the most sacred place for the Muslims, the ruler, the Caliph for the Muslims doing this. After Muawiyah and Yazid, we are going to see that Caliphate become dynasty. This division among the Muslims started as a political matter, as a civil. But in the very first days of this schism, this distinction, there was no huge differences between Sunnis and Shias actually. All those differences come in several centuries because of different judicial interpretations throughout the history. And